What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ChoosingBeggars. This story's called, Got Told I Needed 3+ years of experience in game music to work for uneducated, self-taught, unstructured game devs. This post may sound a bit off from the title, but that's what context is for. I'm 19, currently in my second year of studying a Bachelor of Music and Technology. Aside from my degree, I have a diploma in music production, an online degree in video game music, and certifications with 2 different game music softwares, Fmod and Wwise. I currently make music for a few indie game developers around my city and have experience in a few different audio industries, mainly events. All this said, I generally know everything a game needs in terms of audio. This is my run-in with a few neckbeards. Got told by a friend in a different course a few friends of his were looking for a musician to compose for a few games, and thought maybe I'd be interested. I said sure, I'm always up for more work and I need the experience. I gave him my email. A week later, I get an email for an interview. Most people I work for usually just ask for a portfolio and a discussion, not an interview specifically. Worded over formally and using an email address that was obviously personal, more like instructions on when and where, instead of anything appreciative or any discussion. A bit strange, but I'm not one to ask too many questions. On the day of the interview, I pull up at the house with my portfolio. It's a fairly decent house. I knock on the door and out comes a middle-aged woman, looking very tired and depressed. I start awkwardly talking with her, asking if I was in the right place, when I hear some guy start to call out as he rushes to the door. He comes to the front. He pushes past her and invites me in. The entire time, she looks blank. Mom issues. He takes me to this back room where there's another 2 guys waiting for us. I can see all of them are relatively pale, early 20s, 2 overweight, and 1 very skinny. Not exactly clean looking, but appearances aren't important. There are no seats left. I have to stand. We start talking about ideas and games and all sorts of things. A very unstructured interview, nothing to write home about. Until we get to me. Then it goes full roboto mode. I tell them my background, show my portfolio, then he asks me to play one of the games I've worked on. I tell him that I don't have the files on me. You don't have your own projects? Not really. I don't cart around everything I'm involved with, just the music that I work on. That's bad business. How so? How else am I supposed to play what you've worked on? I mean, you're not really supposed to. I didn't make the games. I wouldn't want to set expectations too high for what I'm capable of. He rolls his eyes a bit. And how much experience do you have in this specific industry? Well, in terms of producing, about 3 years. As a musician, maybe 5. In games, a year. I go through mild qualifications at the top. Then this interview's over. We're looking for someone with about 3 years proven experience. 3 years? Sorry, you're not up to our standards. I'm not really sure what to say at this point. I'm used to a lot of people asking for help on projects that never materialize, but they're always grateful, trust me, and let me be honest with them when I'm not able to deliver. Just curious, what are your qualifications yourselves? He proceeds to tell me that none of them have any experience, no games made, they are just really passionate about games. One guy is decent at sketches, so he's going to do art, with no idea how any modeling or asset software works. This other guy has done a Lynda course in C++, but still doesn't know how to code for a game. This last guy, the one whose house it is, the creative head, has no team management skills or obviously doesn't know much about what goes into a game, and only knows what he knows based on freaking Wikipedia articles. These guys are all neat, and I am the most qualified person in the room. Learning online isn't an issue for me. Plenty of guys I've worked with are self-taught, but they're learned with proper resources, learning the proper things. And they were always just happy to get whatever help they could. I often did work for free, and these people always respected that. This was not that. I politely excused myself and left, but not before I was asked if I knew anyone more qualified. Freaking buttholes. Yeah, people need to realize that a lot of stuff goes into making a game. And for these people who have absolutely no experience, demanding the world out of someone willing to help them out is just ridiculous. Like, making a game is not easy. And unless you have a ton of money to hire some really talented people and get all the resources you need, you're probably not going to be making like Grand Theft Auto right away, man. And these big old AAA studios, they hardly ever hire fresh graduates, man. You gotta have connects. This story's called, "Yes, you have the dog food in stock. Please find it for me." I'm sure from the point of view of the employee, I'm the terrible Karen who lectured him about how a product was stocked. Then, when I didn't like his answer, called the store and complained to the assistant manager. But let's look at it from my point of view. My dogs eat a food that comes in refrigerated bags. Usually, in a big box store, there is a refrigerator in the pet food section with these bags in it. I order groceries, including this perishable dog food, once a week via an app and use curbside pickup to avoid going into the store. This week, the store I usually order from was out of our dog food. My partner currently works at the company that delivers this refrigerated dog food. When our usual store was out of our dog food, I asked him where he had delivered the dog food on the previous night's route so I could go to that store. I didn't want to be in and out of a bunch of stores. I just wanted to go somewhere I could be fairly sure had the food in stock. So I went into that specific big box store, went to the pet section, and found that the refrigerator for the pet food was empty. I found an employee and asked him to check in the back for the dog food. He scans the shelf tag with his device and says, "It says that there are 15 bags of it here." Obviously not. I used to work at a different location of this particular blue big box store, checking inventory in the back and stocking items, including the pet section. I get that sometimes inventory counts are wrong. I didn't work in this particular store, but the process is the same, just somewhere else. The answer to where those 15 bags were is that those 3 cases were sitting in a refrigerator in the back, probably the dairy cooler, but had not been correctly scanned into the backroom location. I asked the employee to please check the dairy cooler and told him that the case would be very obvious, with the brand name written on the side in big green letters. Employee tries to tell me that trucking company stocks that product. It should be out here if the store has it. I had to explain their procedure to him. It's possible that he's new or honestly just doesn't know how this particular product gets stocked, so I tried to stay patient. Trucking company delivers the product, and either the delivery driver or someone who happens to be there when the truck shows up puts the cases in a refrigerated section in the back room. The first shift stocking inventory team, the one I used to be on, or the pet department manager is supposed to scan it into the backroom shelf and then bring the food out to the pet section as needed. Employee went into the back for 2 minutes and then returns. Nope, they don't have it. I walked away before I could call him a liar. My partner has this store on his route and they delivered cases the night before. That was why I was at a store 15 miles from home instead of the store 2 miles from home. I knew this store had gotten their refrigerated dog food delivery and I needed dog food. I doubt they sold multiple cases in less than 24 hours. I couldn't say that to the employee because really my partner shouldn't share where he delivered what, but we needed dog food and it was there, somewhere. Breathe. So I googled the store and then called the store, asking for the pet department manager. The pet department manager wasn't in, but they got me to an assistant manager. Then I asked for the dog food. I had to hold for a bit, but eventually there was an answer. Yes, they have it in stock. I requested that she bring it to me because I was in the store and someone had just told me they didn't have it. A few minutes later, the assistant manager appeared with a whole cartload of cases of refrigerated dog food. She thanked me for letting her know the cooler was empty because the boxes had somehow ended up piled in the dairy refrigerator on the cart. She gave the bag I needed to me. Then she waved down the same employee I had talked to earlier and got him to stock the dog food cooler. She walked me to the front of the store and checked me out herself. Okay, honestly, you probably definitely annoyed the employee, but that's just because they weren't really doing their job as diligently as they probably should have. If they would have just listened to you to begin with, that would have avoided the confusion. But hey, it all worked out in the end. You got your special cold dog food, and the employee feels like a dummy head. This story's called Rich Guy Says He Might Die If We Don't Do His Landscaping for Cheap. My story is already on r/entitled people. So here is some background information that is important to the story. My cousin, 15 male, and I, 21 male, run a small local landscaping LLC that mostly works in the neighborhood where we live. This is not my actual job, but it's a good way for both of us to earn a bit of extra money. We mostly cut grass, but landscaping opportunities come up every once in a while, and I am happy to take them. We live in a pretty nice suburban neighborhood where most people have enough money to live fairly comfortably. I have been landscaping for over 6 years and have had to raise my working rate to fit my experience and the demand for work in my area. Usually, I charge $20 to $30 per hour of work. This is important. I don't care if you think it's overcharging. The story. This guy, let's call him Bob, mid-50s male, lives a few doors down from a family that my LLC works with on a regular basis. He lives in a very nice house and owns a sizable chunk of land behind it, 5+ acres. He has so many cars that they don't all fit in his driveway, and they often block the sidewalk. There's usually 6 cars in total parked in his driveway, and I think he owns all of them. 2 of the cars are Cadillacs. He always watches us work from his yard or his window. It's kinda creepy, but I don't really do anything about it because he's within his rights, and I just want to finish the job as quickly as possible. The only times I've talked with Bob over the last few years was when he was trying to tell me how to do my own job. He has literally walked over and told my cousin and I that I need to do this or that to our client's yard. One time, he even asked me to take 5 minutes of my own time to mow his side yard for free because he forgot to do it and didn't want to get his mower back out. I did it as a gesture of kindness in hopes that he would stop bothering us. It didn't stop him. He continued to bother us for the next few years up until today. So today we were parked outside a client's house unloading equipment from the truck, and Bob pulls up in his Lexus.
Hey, would you guys be able to work for me if I filled my truck up with mulch for 1 or 2 hours? And how much do you charge?
Said Bob. Yeah, I charge $25 per man hour, I replied.
What?
Bob said with a confused expression on his face.
He means it's $50 for both of us to work,
my cousin replied.
What? There's no way you're making that much. Maybe on the lawn mowing, but definitely not the landscaping,
Bob replied in a mildly irritated tone. Yes, I do make that much, Bob. In fact, after I'm done mowing this lawn, I'm about to go over and mulch a guy's beds at that rate. If you don't like my rate, I'm sure there are other boys in the neighborhood that would do it for cheaper, I said in a neutral tone. At this point, I really just wanted him to leave because I had a job to do and he clearly wasn't interested in paying what I charge.
I can't afford that. I was gonna pay you both $10 per hour for 8 hours of work, tax-free. Doesn't that sound like a good deal?
Bob said in reply. I don't know why the amount of work magically increased, but that's just what he said. Also, we do pay taxes on our work. We just have to disclose how much our business makes to the IRS separately. So our clients and prospective clients don't necessarily know that we do that on our own time. Again, you don't have to hire me. I'm sure there are other neighborhood boys that would do the job for you for cheaper, I said. At this point, the situation was just awkward for my cousin and I, so we just were trying to be polite and get him to leave.
Well, if I have to do it myself, I might keel over and die, and you wouldn't want that, would you?
Bob queried. I can't believe it either, but he actually said this. I stood there stunned for a second, but then I said again, I'm not trying to bust you up financially, but you know you can get other people to work for you, right? He once again ignored my point and started rambling about how his wife, daughter, and son started the mulching and were having trouble doing it on their own, and commented on how wealthy the people must be that are hiring us. Most of my clients are a lot less well off than him from what I can tell, yada yada yada. Trying to end the conversation, I say, well, Bob, if you change your mind, do you have my contact information?
No,
He replied.
but I know where you live.
Then he just kinda drove away somewhat abruptly. Now, I'm not really sure if that comment was passive-aggressive or not, because he actually does know where I live. We live in the same neighborhood, but I definitely didn't care if it was a threat. My cousin and I are trained fighters. I do MMA and was a high school wrestler, and he wrestles in high school. And although I suspect he is a gun owner, I highly doubt he was implying he wanted to make the neighborhood a war zone, especially against a current member of the military. In addition to that, Bob is not in great shape. IG, his comment about keeling over and dying despite being in his late 50s at most. So obviously, based on what information I have, I can speculate that Bob probably has enough money to pay my rate and either thinks that I'm stupid enough to think that he's poor, or he lives in delusion thinking that $10 an hour is a lot of money for experienced landscapers to spend hours to do his mulching. I would also like to say that I didn't bring up anything to refute his claim about being poor or say anything rude to him because it would be negative PR for my business. My cousin helped where he could, but he's not much of a talker when it comes to these situations. That's really cool having a business like that. You can tell that, he probably just started it as a small thing to make money, and he grew it, which is really good. But yeah, you definitely want to avoid lowball rates because people will probably assume that your service is of lesser quality than if it were to be sold at a higher price, because then you have that sort of exclusivity pricing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.